What's up, Through the Waves? We are back for an all-new episode, and we have a special guest today, Javi.
Hey, what's up?
And for those of you who don't know us, you can catch us at Through the Waves Florida on Instagram or Through the Waves on Facebook, or also you can catch up on all of our details at throughthewaves.com. But today we are just going to dive in, and we're going to start this episode out a little bit different, and we are just going to dive into some prayer here. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this episode and having Javi here as our special guest today, Lord. I pray that you just help us to, you just speak through us throughout this episode, Lord, and just help us to say whatever you want us to say, Lord. And just thank you for getting everyone here safely. Thank you for this fellowship, Lord, and just help us to not be nervous, because I am nervous all the time. And just help this to be yours, Lord. And just thank you so much for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
I think that deserves a clap.
I just messed up the intro like 5 times.
No, it's all good.
But what's up, Javi?
I'm great.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm
doing well. I'm excited. I just want to first and foremost thank you for having me on. It's definitely a cool thing to collaborate with another fellow podcaster. And I think you guys are doing a real cool job with it so far.
You.
So I just kind of wish you well, and hopefully this is not my last time here. I definitely look forward to coming back and
yes, we would love
chatting
that.
it up and talking about other things.
Yes, and Javi has his own podcast.
Yes.
If you want to go ahead and tell them a little bit about
plug,
it.
I guess. Shameless plug. You can catch me at Kingdom Talks _pod. That's POD on Instagram. I don't have a Facebook. I do have a TikTok at Kingdom Talks. I do have a website at kingdomtalkspodcast.com. And I also am on YouTube at Kingdom Talks. And I've been doing it for a little over a year now.
You've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, I'm on episode 49. Actually, episode 49 just dropped. So for those who haven't,
go ahead and check it out.
haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out.
Yeah.
Help with the algorithm. Like it, share it, all that stuff.
And do you want to tell them a little bit like what your podcast is about, like what you talk about?
Sure. So on my podcast, it's more of the reason why I call it Kingdom Talks, obviously, is because I like to give I'm a Christ follower. I'm a Christian, saved by grace, because I was never a Christian. Throughout my childhood, I really didn't identify as a Christian. In my teenage years, didn't identify as such. Even in my early 20s, I didn't identify as such. It was like later on in my life, in my late 20s or early 30s. I'm kind of dating myself now. I sound old just saying my late 30s.
Yeah.
But I got saved at age 29, and I started taking, my faith serious. And why I called it Kingdom Talks is because it's a play on words with TED Talks. Like everybody's been pretty, familiar with what TED Talks are all about. But with Kingdom Talks, I feel that it's a little bit more of a substance-based conversation that I have with guests. And most of my guests, like I want to say like 99% of my guests are people that I've done life with, people who I'm acquainted with, or just, friends. And I just talk about topics that range from mental health, from relationships, from entrepreneurship, from just barbershop talks, because I do have the podcast filming at a barbershop.
Which is such a cool setup that you guys have over there. With the cat, it's kind of like this, a nice couch, and it's very chill. I feel like you wouldn't know it was in a barbershop unless you told everyone.
Yeah, because Pedro has a setup where he has black walls down, up as a nice little, scene, like quaint scenery and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Shouts to Pedro for giving me the opportunity and blessing me for the space. So I think it all just kind of happened for a reason. Everything kind of fell into place and stuff like that. So definitely honored and definitely blessed to even have the opportunity to just, have conversations that resonate through people. I have people, random people, just DM me on Instagram saying, hey, I really loved the mental health episode that you had with your therapist. Yeah. I really did like that, and it really opened me up to consider seeking therapy. Because a lot of us men, we kind of live by that stigma, especially in my age group. We kind of grew up with that stigma that men's supposed to be tough, rough and rugged, and we're not supposed to be soft, and we don't really believe in sitting in a couch and talking about our feelings and sharing, and sharing this, sharing that, and being vulnerable to a complete stranger. And
Yeah.
it's tough, especially in my bring up. I was brought up in a very Latin, family, Latin culture. Kind of doesn't want to break that stigma, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I grew up in New York,
Oh, New York. What part of New York?
Long Island, New York,
Oh,
in Suffolk County.
So I feel like they're like super tough in New York, especially Long Island, right?
Yeah. Anywhere in New York, from
Yeah.
from the urban areas to the suburbs, from the hoods to the regular neighborhoods, it's all.
I
It's all
just
tough.
heard your New York accent. The
Yes.
neighborhoods.
The neighborhoods, the coffee, the chocolate.
That was the first time
So
I've ever
holla
heard
at
that
me,
'cause I
son. But
Yeah.
I'm just blessed to be able to have a platform that just kind of speaks to our demographic, speaks to the men out there and women.
Yeah.
And I told you earlier offline
Yeah.
that I wanted to start a series of talks with women because I feel like it's important to give women a voice in a men saturated arena. There's not enough women out there speaking their truth
Yeah.
and speaking their faith and that. So I just want to give women the opportunity to jump on my show. And I had so far I have two women, which is not the greatest percentage, being that I'm on the episode 49 and I've only had two female guests out of the 49 episodes. But I want to get better at that, and that's why I want to. I started this initiative with these series of talks with women, and I'd like to have you on one day.
Yeah, definitely.
And other women to just kind of talk about life, talk about experiences and relationships, because a lot of the things that we talk off the microphone where we're hanging out and just hanging out at a restaurant, or we're hanging out in someone's house and we're just having, round table conversations, quote unquote,
Yeah.
So I like to just bring that out in the limelight and kind of express it through my platform, so that way women could hear other perspectives, and maybe they might get some insight on your experience, because
Yeah.
you never know what your experience may connect with someone that had a similar go around with certain things that you've experienced and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the whole initiative with all that.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're gonna get so many girls on there, so many women.
That's not the reason why I'm doing it.
more than two is what I'm saying. It's
yeah,
gonna be a
for sure.
higher, not in that way.
Yeah. I'm not looking for a wife right now.
Yeah. But that's awesome,
Yeah, yeah.
Bobby. And so one of the other things that we like to do in the beginning is we like to do a little icebreaker
I
game.
love these pillows, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Just
Target.
makes it so much comfortable.
Everything at Target. Yeah, adjust it the way you need to. Sometimes you can get it in like a
Yeah.
bad spot. And
Oh, but I love it because this is kind of like my
it's like an armrest kind of.
armrest.
Yeah.
Like that. Love it.
Yeah, Target has everything.
Yeah. This is awesome. Yeah.
But okay, so we're gonna do like a little icebreaker here. I
Okay,
like
cool.
to do these with everyone who comes on, just to kind of lighten the mood a bit.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you a few questions,
Sure.
and if you want to pass, but I don't think you're gonna pass.
I will never pass. I will just take on your challenges,
Okay.
your challenging questions.
So the first one is, if you had only 24 hours to live, what would you do?
Wow, you started off deep, man. Like
That's
you
what I
couldn't
said, if
even
you
like
wanna pass.
you couldn't even like wean me into like the deeper questions. I think I was gonna get like, what's your favorite color?
Nope. 24 hours to live. Go.
You went right in the jugular. Wow, that's a loaded question, man. If I had 24 hours to live,
Would you be like on your hands and knees, Jesus save me, or would you be like, I'm going skydiving?
no, I would. I'm definitely in that skydiving realm where I would definitely do something very, very dangerous.
Yeah, because you're like, I only have.
But
24
controlled
hours.
danger, controlled danger is like the best danger. I feel like I think
Yeah.
Jr. may agree on that one with me. Shouts to Jr. running the
JR is always in the
audibles.
room.
He's in the room. He's in the building.
Yeah.
Shouts to JR. Love that guy. But yeah, I'll probably do like something that's controlled, even though it sounds like an oxymoron, like a controlled danger. What is that? But something that's
think I get where you're
controlled,
going, yeah.
dangerous. I'd probably jump off a plane, maybe bungee jumping, feeding the homeless. I'll try to do everything all in 24 hours. Like
Yeah,
I'll probably
just go
go
for
to
it all.
Yeah, probably go to like the kitchen and feed the homeless for a couple hours, then head over to jump, in an airplane, and then
Mm-hmm.
probably go and catch a plane to wherever.
You could steal a private jet.
Yeah, steal a private jet, do something. I'll try not to get into crime,
Yeah.
because then I'll get arrested within the 3 hours that I have. So, but yeah, I'll definitely do something very exciting, something that's adrenaline driven.
Yeah.
Something that I would never do just out of a spurt of a moment. Like I would love to go skydiving and love to jump off a plane. I think that's still in my bucket list.
Yeah.
But if I was told that I had 24 hours to live, I would definitely speed the process up and I would do it ASAP for sure.
Do everything. Just
do
hit
everything.
It all.
Yeah, just do it all, man.
It's like that one song, I went sky.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't it talking about living like you're done?
Yes, yes. And I'll probably do, like, I always wanted to do like that, what is it called when you go deep sea diving in that cage to see like great whites and hammerheads?
Oh, yes.
Like,
that's
bro,
me. That's
like,
up my alley. I'm a shark diver.
Yeah, like I want to be in that cage, man, and just see that mammoth of a creature.
They're amazing.
Shark Week's like favorite week of the year, by the way.
Oh, same. It's been my favorite week since I was like 14 years
Same.
Yeah.
Like Shark Week is like the best.
It is the best.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
question.
yeah, that was a long-winded question. I apologize.
That's okay. You have a lot you want to do in 24 hours. I mean, same though. And I'm right with you with the shark diving. I would hit up all the sharks.
For sure.
But okay, question number 2. If someone's underwear was showing, would you tell them? Yes or no?
Male or female? That's very specific.
It does not say. It just says
does not
someone.
say. Wow. I probably would.
Yeah.
I probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a kind thing to do.
It's a kind thing to do. Yeah. The Jesus in me would probably be like, hey, guy, you know.
I feel like it depends on the situation
Yeah.
though too. Like if somebody is like, it's been happening for a while, you know, or it's like a split second.
But if it's like a random at Walmart at 11:30 at night,
it's questionable.
it's questionable.
Yeah, same. Same. Okay. Next question. If you had to pick one current hit song to play continuously, nonstop, in the background of your everyday life, what song would it be?
Yikes.
Continuously.
My
man.
gosh.
I always like outplay like my favorite song. I'll play over and over and over and over. And then I'm like,
Wow.
I hate this song so much. So that's what I picture here.
I don't know.
There's so many songs.
It's so many songs. Like, and I have like a wide range of music. I go from, from Limp Bizkit to NSYNC. Like NSYNC are my boys. But I also go from like DJ Khaled to anything hip hop, like Meek Mill.
Yeah.
Drake. Got to throw some Drake in there.
What's your like go-to hype gym song that you're like, I need this to get through this workout? I feel like that's a good like life song.
I've been recently, like the last year and a half, I've been listening to. I don't know if you guys are familiar with drill music.
Drill music. Is it like drum?
It's a form of hip hop, but
Okay.
it's called drill, and it has a lot of bass and upbeat to it. A lot of drill artists, Fabio and Pop Smoke, are like the ones that are like the kings of that genre.
Yeah.
So I definitely, anything Pop Smoke
Is your go-to?
is my go-to
Okay.
in the gym, because he has like that upbeat
Yeah.
fire.
Like let's get pumped.
Let's get pumped.
And
let's,
that's like your
let's
life
crush.
motto.
Yeah. So it would probably be drill music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Last question. If you bumped your car into someone else's but no one saw, what would you do? Would you play the honest route or would you just drive away?
Wait, like a parked car and no one's in the car?
It just says bumped. Yeah, I would say it was probably, if no one saw, it's probably just a bumped.
Oh, so it's a stationary car. There's
Yeah.
nobody in it.
And nobody saw.
Well, I have a story.
Oh.
It happened
And you drove
like
away.
5 years ago. It happened like five years ago. Yeah. It was at a parking. It was at the downtown parking garage on the court side, because that's where I work, and I definitely kind of like love tapped, I want to say,
yeah.
someone. And
Were they in it?
They weren't in it. So
Okay.
what I did was I took a pen and paper and gave my information,
Oh,
because I did
nice.
leave like a little indent in there.
Yeah.
And I gave my information. I told him, hey, I tapped your car.
That's nice. So you left a note.
I did. Never got a call back though.
Oh,
He
well,
probably-
because you did the right
yeah.
thing.
And he probably saw that it was literally, and I honestly,
Yeah.
heart of hearts, I felt like that dent was already there.
But you just still did the
But
right thing.
I did the right thing, and I never got the call back.
Well,
so
maybe that's why they didn't call you though, because
Probably.
they're like, oh, that was
Probably.
already there. And
Yeah,
if they
probably.
were like a rude person, they could have been like, oh yeah, we'll claim this and get some cash. But
yeah, no, they definitely.
that's awesome. You
Yeah.
did the right thing. Yeah. One time I was backing out of my driveway late at night,
Mm-hmm.
and this person had a black car, and my street was really, really dark. It was when I lived with my aunt down here, and they were parked directly behind me in the street. And like, you don't expect somebody to be parked directly behind you in
yeah.
the street.
And you were backing up.
And I backed up and I hit their car, and I was like, what
Yikes.
was that?
That's like the worst feeling.
Yeah, and I like literally my heart sank. And then they like ran outside and they're like, oh, you hit my car, you hit my car. And I'm like, your car is right behind my driveway in
Yeah.
the road. And so I gave them my information and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they tried to claim it, but I don't think the insurance company would claim it because nothing ever went on my record. Nothing ever, because it's like, what do you say? I was parked behind them in the
Yeah.
street. Like, it doesn't make
Right.
sense, you know, but you got to do the right thing.
Yeah, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, and I felt like
I
I
don't think
just
it'll come off command strips.
needed to do the right thing, and
Yeah.
I guess it paid off. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it did. I think so. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, so today we are going to dive in and talk about some waves. So, do you have any specific waves that you have been facing or you've recently gone through that you want to talk about today?
I mean, yeah, I've been kind of exploring the idea of leaving my current job
Yeah.
because it's just not been healthy for me.
Yeah.
It's just turned into a place where I'm not motivated to go to, unfortunately. And I've been there for 7 years now, and I think it's come to a place where it's time for a change, I feel
Yeah.
like. So I've been really contemplating that, and it's been really messing with me a little
Yeah.
bit. And so I just kind of came to a place where I just said, you know what? Why not just take it out of my hands and place it in the Lord's hands?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And not until I got to that place is where the anxiety was,
Yeah.
down. And it definitely helped with my anxiety. It had definitely helped with having that that place in my head where I'm doubting myself. And so once I started doing that, and just it's amazing what surrender can really do for you.
Oh, 1,000%.
yeah,
Because
it's-
sometimes we try to hold on and like take control
Right.
of a situation.
And that's me. I'm
Yeah.
a bit of a control freak. I was really bad BC, before Christ. But now I'm a little better. With life experiences and with just, the seasons that you go through, you get a little better with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just recently been catching tidal waves, man.
Yeah.
Like mentally, spiritually, I was getting rocked a little bit, and I was just allowing the outside circumstances dictate my inside, my inside, and that's my spirit. And I don't want to have anything that the external affect my internal.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of gave it up to the Lord. And I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks now. And it's definitely helped with just claiming serenity, honestly.
Yeah.
And just surrendering it to the Lord, knowing that the Lord has a bigger plan. And it's always a good reminder that God navigates through big picture things, and we don't. We kind of just focus on what's going on in real time, in the present, and God doesn't operate in that type of time. He
Exactly.
operates in his own time, you
Yeah.
know. So it's the waves have definitely come and gone, and they do come in waves. No pun intended, but
Yeah.
I've learned in the last couple of months that when I do release that to the Lord and give it to His hands, it doesn't crumble.
Yeah.
When I hold it on my hands, it just seems to
Feels
crumble.
like everything's crumbling around you.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
sometimes we carry burdens that we have no business carrying.
Yeah.
And God will allow things to happen in our lives to remind us of that.
Yeah.
And that's just the way He loves on us.
Yeah.
And as a Christian, we just kind of have to come to terms to that. You know what I'm saying? And it's definitely a humbling experience for me, and just got to keep pushing, you know, got to keep moving forward, and
Yeah.
not, and like I said before, not let the external affect your internal.
It's like the book in the Bible, I think it's in Matthew, where he talks about, I think it's Peter on the boat with Jesus and
Yep, that's Matthew.
yeah.
I forget what chapter, but you're right.
Exactly. There's so many books, it's like hard to keep
Yeah.
them all straight. But where they're like freaking out and they're panicking on the boat and they're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? There's this storm raging and like Jesus is sleeping on the boat.
Yeah, he's chilling.
He's chilling
Yeah.
and they're like panicking.
Yeah,
And they go to like wake him up and Jesus goes, oh, you have little faith.
yeah.
And like Jesus gets up and he calms the wind and the waves.
Yeah.
And that's just like one of my favorite things. It's because I feel like that's how we are in life.
Yeah.
Like we see all of these problems and we see all of these things in front of us. But it's like you said,
Mm-hmm.
like God doesn't focus on this just like one moment,
Yeah.
like the moment that we're in. Like he sees the bigger picture
Yeah.
and he is using these moments to either like strengthen us or teach us something, and we don't see like where he's guiding us to, and so we panic
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, oh, we try to take the situation into our own control.
Yeah.
But it's like if we just let him have all the control, we'd be like, okay, I know that he is going to get me where like I need to be as long as I
Right.
focus on him.
Yeah, and it kind of, for me, it's that refining
Yeah.
season. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just refining you, sharpening you. If you're impatient, man,
The refining
he's gonna
seasons.
he's gonna refine you and
Yeah.
put you in places where he's gonna work on your patience. When you're a bit of a control freak, he's gonna refine you, and he just puts you in places and spaces
Yeah.
where he knows that there's gonna be growth. And you're not gonna grow unless you surrender. You truly surrender to the Lord, and just, you know, it sounds cliche because every Christian says this, but pray it out.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be that one that would say it but not practice it. I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna pray about it. Oh, I'm gonna pray for you, but I really don't. Or I'll
Right.
forget and
Yes.
stuff like that. But I've been really intentional with prayer, man. Like a couple episodes ago when I did my podcast, we actually talked about the power of prayer
Yeah.
and things like that. But it's so true. Like I think prayer definitely prompts the Lord to do the things that he needs to do in order to get us centered and you know, be under his will. Like we want to operate it under his will and not our own.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get, you know, we do get anxious. We do tend to panic, and we kind of derail ourselves.
Yeah.
We self-sabotage, and,
Yeah.
and then we no longer find ourselves under his will. And I think in order to be under his will, we have to start with surrender, because then you'll find yourself being obedient to the call and being obedient to whatever it is that God's calling you to do. And then essentially the byproduct is, you know, reaping the fruits of your labor because you
Yes.
followed God's guidance and his vision and things like that. So that's where all of us should be. And I just encourage people to really surrender, because I
Yeah.
think in today's culture, we are constantly wanting things to happen yesterday.
Yes.
You know, we live in this microwave
Yes.
society where we're on phones constantly, and we're in front of
Like they have
screens,
everything.
and we have different options,
Yeah.
and we have the TikToks, and we have Instagram, and we got the Reels, and all this other stuff, and
And we have like immediate gratification
Yeah.
for a lot of things.
so we translate that immediate gratification to our own lives.
Yeah.
And God really doesn't operate like that.
Yeah.
Because that we come to a place where we treat God like as if he was a genie. Like, grant me these wishes and grant me these prayers.
Yeah.
And then I'll promise I'll be good. And it's like, God's like, there's, you know, there's a little bit of maturing that you need there, sir.
Right. So let me just refine you a
Yeah,
bit. I mean, isn't
exactly.
it like, don't diamonds have to be crushed
Yeah.
before they're like,
Pressure will either bust pipes or make diamonds, bro.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like that's sometimes what God does to us. It feels like he's pressing us, but he's never going to crush us.
Yeah.
And so that stinks sometimes when, you know, like you said, he's not a genie.
Yeah, he definitely
It's
isn't.
like not every time we go to God, like God is always good, but not every time we go to him for something, we're not going to get the answer right away, or we're
Right.
not going to get what we want right away, but that's what we expect sometimes.
Right.
And I think sometimes God tries to teach us patience, tries to teach us like all of these other things, because going back to that immediate gratification, like sometimes we can be so selfish too. Like,
That's a
I want
fact.
this for me right now,
Yep.
you know? And going back to what you were talking about earlier, I used to be one of those people too, where I'd be like, I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry. And like, I had the best intentions. Like,
Right.
I never meant it in a bad way.
Yeah.
But now when I tell somebody that, I literally have to stop what I'm doing and pray for
Yeah.
them in that moment.
Action.
Yes.
It's all about
Because if
action.
I don't, I won't do it.
John Maxwell said it the best. He said that he would rather have your 1% action
Yeah.
than your 99% intention.
Yeah.
And I think it's so true because you can be 99% intention,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't really, do anything with intention because it's not followed through with action.
Yeah.
So it's just dead faith.
Yep.
And we don't want to. I personally don't want to operate in that manner in any area of my life, in any arena that I'm going to be in
Yeah.
in my life, whether it be the entrepreneurial arena,
Yeah.
the private sector arena, the podcast arena. I don't want to operate that way.
Yeah, and us
Yeah.
both being podcasters now,
Yes.
it's hard too because I feel like it takes a lot of faith for us to keep going
Yeah.
and keep at it because it is one of those things that isn't like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is going to be perfect. Like you guys
Yeah.
can see my shadow here in the room and like I'm doing this out of my guest bedroom, but
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where like you just grow over time.
Exactly.
And you have to really put in the work. You have to trust that it's going to happen
Yeah.
and just have faith.
And consistency is
Yeah.
definitely key. I don't know how I got to episode 49, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you right
That's
now,
amazing.
it's going to go like that.
Yeah.
Just keep going, and then sooner or
Yeah.
later, you're going to be a dozen episodes in, and you're going to be like, wow. And you'll see the growth. Like, what I do is I will go back to like episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to my current episodes.
And then you probably want to cringe. You're like, oh, I made it so far, but then you're like, ah.
Yeah, it's like, wow, like the growth is incredible.
Yeah.
And the content, man, it's just, I've never thought that I would ever make an episode with my own therapist, but I made it happen.
Wow.
I just kind of asked him, I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
because he knows that I do a podcast because I share, obviously you have to share everything with your therapist.
Yeah.
And so you develop a rapport and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
was just kind of spitballing, and I just said, hey, by the way, like, I really do want to speak about mental health.
Yeah.
Because I come from that. I come from, dealing with mental health early on as a kid, early on in my teenage years. And I was in a dark place a long time ago. So
Yeah.
mental health does resonate and has a true place in my heart that I like to always share and
Yeah.
encourage people to definitely don't take it lightly. Don't take your mental health lightly. Just like how people are so adamant about going to the gym to get
Yeah.
your fitness right. I think the biggest and most important muscle is your brain
Yep.
and your mental health, and we should definitely treat it as such.
Yeah.
Just like we treat our bodies, we have to treat our mental health with care. And so he was all for it, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah." And we
That's
made
awesome.
We made it happen, and we had a great conversation, and it moved a lot of people. So praise God for that.
Yeah. That was one of your earlier episodes,
Um,
or that was a more recent one.
that was last year,
Okay.
so it was
So semi-recent.
mid season.
Yeah.
Mid season. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
And mental health is such a big thing because I go to therapy too.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to my therapist on the phone earlier today.
Cool.
But her and just other doctors I've gone to have said that mental health has become such a big thing since COVID. Yeah. And like we were watching this sermon yesterday and he was talking about how 9 out of 10 people now since COVID deal with some sort of like
Mental
mental,
health issue. Yeah.
unwellness.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy. It's not like it's like, oh, 1 out of 10. It's like 9 out of 10 people. So like
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like people need to know that they're not alone with dealing with this stuff. It's just like I think that there's an enemy out there just trying to attack people so hard right now, and we
Right.
just have to like remember that like God is on our side and that like everyone struggles with certain things. Like nobody's perfect. And I
Yeah.
think with social media and certain things, like you just see like the perfect side of everyone. And another thing we saw was like in another sermon where the pastor was like, you come into church thinking that the person next to you has absolutely nothing wrong with them.
Right.
And they're like perfect. And so
Yeah.
you kind of get down on yourself. But then that person is thinking the exact same thing about you.
Yeah.
So I think that was
That's
just
so
one thing
true.
that was cool.
Yeah, and I always wanted to bring that to light too, is that you're not alone
Yeah.
with your junk, with your stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people are dealing with things, and
Mm-hmm.
my struggle is obviously different than the next person's struggle, but it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still a
Mm-hmm.
struggle. So I think that once you start having conversations about, your struggles and being more vulnerable and transparent with people,
Yeah.
especially if you want to plug yourself into a small group, for those that are attending a church, I always encourage people to get plugged into a small group, because I feel like that's a form of therapy. It's therapeutic to be around like-minded people
And have
and
community.
have that community and have those conversations. And sometimes those conversations could be a little bit uncomfortable, but I always said it from episode 1. Let's get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations,
Yeah.
because I think through those conversations, there's a lot that you can learn from.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that through transparency that you'll have transformation.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
You can't
and-
shove anything deep down in there. You
Yeah.
got to let it out in the light.
Yeah, for sure. So I always was a believer in that, and having conversation is so important with your fellow peers and
Yeah.
and things like that. And that's why having these podcasts is so important,
Yeah.
because now you can literally reach out to anyone, from people from the UK to people in New York to people
Yeah.
in California, from people in Wyoming. So I think it's very important to utilize
Mm-hmm.
the platform that you're growing to have those conversations be heard
Yeah.
around the nation and around the world.
Yeah. And I just think it's so important to use like our gifts that God gives us
Yeah.
to help kind of just show the light to other people,
Absolutely, yeah.
because so many people, I feel like they take that and then they want to like kind of hide with it
Yeah.
in a sense, but we're not meant to like hide out,
Right.
we're meant to do like the good work.
Yeah.
So I think it's just good to use those gifts that God gives you.
Absolutely. And I think it takes a special person to be the light in the darkness, because it's
Yeah.
real easy to be the light in light.
Right. Exactly.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah, you're
It's
chill.
it's very chill. It's not as nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But being the light in the darkness
very hard.
is challenging.
Yeah.
And you are going to be persecuted. Not how people were persecuted in the biblical times.
Yeah.
But people are going to hate on you, and
Yeah.
you're going to have your fair share of haters, and
Yeah.
you're going to have people wait for you to slip up and wait for you to call you a hypocrite and call you a fraud. Because yes, us as especially Christian men, I think a Christian man is held to such a high standard.
Yeah.
That when we do slip
Yeah.
and act out of character, because we are flesh at the end of the day, and we have emotions too.
Yeah.
Like men do have emotions.
What, you guys don't mean like you don't mean that you guys are just like rocks?
Yeah. we have emotions.
JR's like, I have emotions.
And I've been in scenarios and situations where I got out of character and I got emotional. And I was led through by emotion, and I
Yeah.
said and acted out of character and said some things out of character, and it sucks and it's sucky, because then you come down to your senses and you want to apologize to that person.
Yeah.
And sometimes that person doesn't want to accept your apology because they got hurt. They see the human in you, but they also see that, oh, you called yourself a Christian, like how dare you, act that way? You're such
Yeah.
a hypocrite, you're a fraud, you're this, you're that. And it's like, yeah, I did act like that, but that's not who I identify as.
Yeah.
But
because we're all human and we're all gonna
and
make
it comes with
mistakes.
the territory.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're on a
Yeah.
platform.
Yes.
It comes with the territory, so you're scrutinized more. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
are being looked at with a magnifying glass, and I've kind of slowly started seeing that as I'm growing in my
Yeah.
I guess quote unquote following.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does come with the territory, and I can't, and I encourage people too that have a platform or something like that, not to worry so much about the hate. Just focus on the love and be led by love, be led by grace, because
Yeah.
we got the grace and love from our Father that we never deserved. So
Exactly. And I think too, like a lot of the people who are throwing out like that judgment are people who don't really understand, who might not even know like
Yeah.
the love of God. That
Right.
they're like, oh, you're a Christian. So if you're a Christian, you need to be perfect, you
Yeah.
know, because they don't understand
It's like,
it.
man, we're not baby Jesus out here.
Yeah.
I'm not out here polishing my halo.
Right. Like I am still a human being. Like the
Yeah.
only one who is perfect is God.
Right.
So I'm never going to be perfect, however much you want me to be perfect. I can try to do my best to
Yeah.
be a good person, but like I'm going to mess up. And another thing I realized too is like sometimes you hurt people without realizing that you're hurting people. Like just because I feel like I watched this sermon one time and he was talking about how like Joe and Sally got married and Sally got pancakes every year for her birthday, but Joe had no idea. And so when her birthday came, she like got offended that he didn't make her pancakes. And it's like, well, how does he know if
Right.
you never told him?
If you're not
you
going to
know?
communicate that, yeah.
So I think our culture too can like easily be offended sometimes,
Yeah.
but we just need to like drop that offense and be like, hey, we're all imperfect.
We are,
you know?
absolutely. And I think that's why relationships fail.
Yeah.
A lot of relationships fail in our age group, like from like 25 to 40, I feel like that
Yes.
age group, they fail and they don't even get to a place where they're healthy because they don't know how to navigate through certain things. They don't know
Yeah.
how to learn each other. They don't know how to ask the questions that need to be asked. They don't know how to, communicate, and it's challenging. But we have to take initiative, and sometimes we fall in that temporal thing where everything that we think is permanent is actually temporary. Like,
Yeah.
for example, love is not a feeling; it's a choice.
Yeah. Oh,
But
100%.
culture will tell you that it's a feeling. So
Yeah.
feelings are temporary.
And you
It's
can't
fleeting.
go off of your emotions or
Yeah.
your feelings.
Right, exactly.
No.
But people would think, oh, I fell out of love with someone,
Yeah.
or my love for that person fizzled out. No, it's a choice.
Exactly.
The love of God, what his son did on that cross, it wasn't a feeling. He wasn't
Yeah.
feeling all happy-go-lucky, like,
Yeah.
hey guys, I'm gonna take this cross to Calvary. I'm gonna hang on it. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's
You know
gonna
what I'm
be
saying?
so
It's
painful.
a choice. It's
Yeah.
a choice. So us, we have to understand that love is a choice. So if you choose not to love me anymore,
Yeah.
then that's what you're doing. You're choosing not to love me.
Yeah.
You're choosing not to get to know me.
Yeah.
And also that's temporary is compatibility. The Sarah that you were 5 years ago is the Sarah that you're not today.
Yeah, because you
know?
grow
Right.
all throughout your
your
life.
compatibility
Yeah.
is always going to change. You're not always going to be compatible to JR. It's always going to change.
Yeah.
And JR's job and our jobs are to always learn from our changes because that's our growth. We have to
Yeah.
learn each other. We have to. My therapist says it this way: we have to have a doctrine in learning your partner. You just
Yeah.
can't have a high school diploma. So compatibility or the choices that we make are very temporal. So we make decisions based on emotion, and emotions are temporary. So what we
Yes.
do is we make decisions based on temporary feelings that are permanent, and that's not the way we should, live life. Like we shouldn't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings.
Yeah.
And that's what we all do.
Yes.
I'm guilty at that too. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I feel through experiences, and I've been through my fair share of relationships, the common denominator
Yeah.
as to why they failed is because of that.
They're
you know?
sliding. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's like I can't get my head set. This is probably going to be a blooper right here. This is going to be a blooper. It's staying. It's staying.
Okay.
It's staying.
Keep going.
But yes, so I think we have to just kind of, I have to be better at that. I think us as a young adult generation have to be better at that. We can't be influenced by culture. We have to influence culture.
Yes.
And culture will tell you, do whatever your heart says or do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
And no, not necessarily, because things that make me happy are not God honoring.
Yeah, they're
You know?
not necessarily the best thing for you.
Correct.
And
so
we live in such a selfish culture now.
We
like
do.
me, myself, and I. Like, do what's
Yep.
best for you. You got you, boo. Like,
Yeah.
do it, you
right.
know?
And then we mask it with oh, I prayed about it and God told me to make that decision.
Yeah.
God told me I can't be in this relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like, unless you're in a really toxic relationship, whether you're being abused physically, mentally, or emotionally, or all the above, then yes, you have to flee, run. But if you are, trying and you're trying to learn your partner and you're really serious about marriage,
Yeah.
then like work it. You have to put in work.
Yeah.
Everything you got to do in life is work, and that also includes your relationship that you want it to be a marriage.
Yeah.
So I just think it just takes work, and some people don't want to put in the work, unfortunately, and they mask it with, oh, I prayed about it, but did you though? And what does your prayer look like if you think God's telling you to get out of a relationship that really isn't abusive, that really isn't toxic, and you're not getting hit over the head, and you're not being verbally abused? Like what is it? And you got to start there. You got to work that out.
Yeah.
Even if it means counseling, even if it means couples therapy, whatever it is, you have to put in that work. But
Yeah.
a lot of people, the easy way for us young adults to do is to flee.
Yes,
And run
exactly.
away and break up and start all over with a whole new person. And you get caught in those cycles.
Yeah.
That you break up and then you are single for a couple months and then you get into another relationship and you keep repeating. I think Pastor Mike Todd had a sermon on that.
Yeah.
I think he had a whole series on relationship goals or whatever. And,
He did. I think
and
I
it's
watched
crazy.
it.
It's so true that
Yeah.
you get caught up in these cycles. Men and women get caught up in these cycles, and where you break up, you have a break, and then you get another relationship, but you start repeating the same
Yes.
the same mistakes because you're not learning from them. You're just bringing your same stuff onto the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
And I think he did a sermon on it. It was like rip up your list. It was talking about how people create like mental lists of what they want.
what
like,
they want. Yeah.
oh, I want them to be like a surfer. Oh, I want them to have blonde hair, blue
Yeah.
eyes. Like, oh, I want this and this and this. But it's like, what if the person that God has for you isn't that?
Isn't
You need to
all
be
that.
open to
Right.
accept that, because like you might not think because you made this list that
Right.
that is the person for you,
Yeah.
but you're like missing all the blessings and all the love that like God wants to give you.
Yeah, yeah,
You know? I feel like I was like that for a while, like back in the day. I'm like, oh, like I want to date this type of person, but like I didn't know that was not what I needed or not what I wanted,
Right. Yep.
And
For
so
sure.
you just have to be open to like what God has for you.
Absolutely.
Now I got this stud over here
We got
doing the
Stud
recording.
doing the recording, helping out through the waves, and cleanups coming up soon. I heard
Yeah.
November what now?
November 5th, I believe.
November
It's the first
5th.
weekend. It's going to be the first Saturday in November. So we're going to start planning that. Don't know what beach yet,
Right.
but I'm super excited because we took a break for a bit because I was going through my
A
own
transition,
things.
yeah.
And I'm just super excited to get back to it
I'm
because
excited
that's where
for
we
you.
started,
Yeah, and I was just telling you earlier, like it's so cool that you're going back to the roots. Like
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like you're going back to the roots where it all started, and
Mm-hmm.
this is this podcast is the byproduct of that. And you
Yeah.
created such a cool community that I didn't plug myself in yet, but I will.
But now you will.
I will. I promise. As soon as you get that first big cleanup, I'll be there with my T-shirt on and ready to roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exciting. That's really cool that you're doing that for not just to make you feel good, but to do it for the community.
Yeah.
And building a community. I think us
Yes.
as Christians and kingdom builders, we need to have that in our forefront of our hearts and minds and spirit to definitely be up for building a community, because I think that's what Jesus essentially wants us to do, is to
Definitely.
build a community and be plugged into a good community where it impacts your surroundings and where you're at. So I'm very excited for you.
Thank you so much. And like you said, it's great community to have. It's something I think that's good for your mental health too, because
Yeah.
you're out, you're having fellowship, you're in a beautiful place. I mean, who doesn't love the beach? If you don't like the beach, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I know that it brings me so much
Some
peace.
people don't like it though, because they're like, it's hot. JR doesn't like the sand. I'm like, what? But
I've been to like beach at night, and it's so
we go
peaceful.
sometimes.
It's
It's
so
so-
peaceful.
we
Like
just sit there.
laying out on like the I bring like these long picnic like
Yes.
sheets.
Yeah, we bring like a sheet. We'll just
Yeah.
bring a full on sheet.
So and just you just lay there, you put on some cool tunes, and you hear those waves as
It's
you're
so
looking up
relaxing.
in the stars.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's a clear night, starlit sky.
Yeah.
And it's something about the waves hitting the shore that
Yep.
just it just gets you to a place of tranquility, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an amazing feeling. And I'm like, wow, God, you did this. You
Yeah.
created this. Like, you created the ocean
Mm-hmm.
and the surrounding atmosphere
Like
of
you just don't think about
and
it
you don't
until
think
you're
about
like
it until you're
surrounded
actually
into
there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I thought about when you were saying that, when you were talking about the waves coming in, is like they always break.
Yeah.
You know, going back to like the analogy of like we all have our waves in life. Like just remember that they always break eventually, you know? So
absolutely.
it might feel like you're deep in that wave and it's super high right now, but it's going to break eventually.
Yeah, there's that famous quote, what is it called? This shall too pass.
Yes. I think so.
Yeah.
Something along those
and
lines.
that quote is so powerful, even though
Yeah.
it's so short, but it's so true. Like, this shall too pass.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to be happy forever.
Yeah.
You're never going to be sad forever. Like,
Yeah.
you're never going to be in that emotion forever. You're going to get through it. When you walk with it alongside God, it's just it's a better feeling.
Yes.
Because once you come out of that storm, it's such a relief. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, praise God. Like, that's really what you can say, is just praise God, give all glory to God, because if it wasn't for God, I don't know where I would be. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like it's a really cool feeling to just, break that wave and be on the other side of that.
Oh, 1,000%. And just like one thing I feel like you're not taught as you're growing up, I mean, I wasn't,
Yeah.
is that like you don't get to a point in life where like you're good,
Right.
you know? Like I always felt like, oh yeah, I'm going to have like this hill to climb and then I'm going to get to a place and I'm going to have a family and then I'm just going to be like
Yeah.
Gucci and just having
Yeah, nobody teaches you how to be an adult.
no. And it's like,
No, being an adult doesn't come with a handbook.
Yeah.
It's like, your parents do their best to raise
Yeah.
you as a kid so you can be a good kid. But once you start, getting into your 20s
Mm-hmm.
and you become a young adult, quote unquote, no one gives you a handbook and say, this is what it's going to look like, this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're going to essentially be an efficient, productive adult. Follow these, guidelines. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
no one teaches you
No.
how to be an adult. You just have to walk life.
exactly.
And
And
let
take it
the
day by day.
experiences do their job, and
Yeah.
let time and experiences take its course.
Yeah.
And hopefully you make the right choices. And even if you make the wrong choices, you won't make those wrong choices more than once.
You'll learn from them.
You learn from them, absolutely.
And I feel like, especially if you're following God, like he'll use those wrong choices and turn them into something for his good.
For
like
sure.
everything that I went through, because I grew up in a Christian home, but I didn't really seek Jesus until I moved to Florida. And so I've really been like going hard in my faith for the past 3-4 years now ish. And so like, I feel like back then I went through some things where I was like, oh, geez, why did I do that? Like, I wouldn't do that now. But I feel like everything I went through, like, God has been able to use for his good, whether it's like sharing one of my stories with somebody who's
Yeah.
going through something, or just anything really, you
Right.
know, or like, oh, why did I have to go through that? But it's like built up my character, or it's taught me something to where it's like, okay, now I can apply that to my business, you know, just anything. Like, God, I feel like will use for his good.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah.
God is so good. I mean, sometimes we feel the fire,
Yeah.
and it hurts.
Yeah.
But the pruning, when you're getting pruned and you're going through the fire, it's just gonna hurt, and it's the growing pains.
Yep.
And the growing pains is what it is, and we have to go through those growing pains in order for us to be who we are called to be. I think that when you start realizing what God is doing in your life, the bigger picture, like I said before, he's such a bigger picture God. When we just focus on the small piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
he focuses on the entire puzzle.
He's doing so much more.
Versus the little piece that we're worrying about,
Yeah.
because that piece is not going in that corner that
Yeah.
we wanted to go. You put.
But it will
But it
eventually.
will eventually.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure that you have all your pieces in line,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you have to just allow God to do His thing.
Yeah.
And you got to get out of your own way.
Exactly.
You got to get out of your own way, because sometimes we just
And
get out of
trust.
our own way.
Yep.
Yep.
So going back to the beginning,
Yeah.
where you said the waves you've been feeling are kind of with like your job and stuff.
Yeah.
So you still kind of aren't sure where you're going with that there?
Well, I'm being a
or-
little bit more proactive with it.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been updating my resume.
Okay.
So the resume is definitely being updated.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
And just kind of, I'm in school.
Awesome.
I'm going through a 12-month certification program through UCF.
Awesome.
To just learn about the cyber tech world. So
Okay.
I'm doing cybersecurity, and I have a
amazing.
test Saturday, which I'm kind of
Oh.
low key nervous about.
Is
Which
it a long test or?
not no not I think it's only like
Yeah.
20 questions, but it carries a big portion of the phase 1 of the curriculum.
Yeah.
So
You're going to do great.
yeah, I definitely
Jesus'
there
name.
are a lot of memorization, a lot of different things that I got to memorize. And
I'm really bad at memory.
Yeah.
Like, especially for a test. Like,
Yeah.
I was never a good test taker. I was always good in like the classroom setting.
Yeah.
But when it came down to a test, I'm like, oh, I forget everything.
and obviously I'm not in campus because I'm not driving all the way to UCF.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the night classes Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sunday mornings through remote online
Okay.
classes and stuff like that. We have a class, remote class the size of 37 students.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty big
Classroom.
online class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been challenging, but again, I'm just going through uncharted territories. I'm coming out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think that's what God kind of wants you in order for you to grow, in order for you to test the waters and, you know, see where it goes.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like every time you do start to get comfortable with something, and I feel like you do feel like that nudge, it's when you start, it's like a feeling
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, I'm a little too comfortable
Right.
here. Like I've been in that with so many positions. I worked in the legal field for a long time
Yeah.
to where it's like, you're like, okay, I feel God pushing me here and pushing
Yeah.
me here. And that push, and even right now, like this change with like building up my business and I train on the sides, it's uncomfortable, and I find myself like doing all these like odds and ends little training
Right.
jobs, and I don't like it because I like
Yeah.
having stability.
Yeah.
But I am trusting God in this season that He is going to get me to
I
where
know.
He wants me to be.
Same.
Yeah.
Me too, because I was low key scared to death. Like when I decided to go back to school, I was like,
Yeah.
do I want to go back to school? But man, if I want to see the change, I got to be the change.
Exactly.
You know,
you're not
and-
going to change just doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Staying the
And
same.
I just felt like I'm stagnant where I'm at now,
Yeah.
and it's just becoming so toxic in that environment now. And I think it's played its course. And
Yeah.
I have peace with that, and God's not a God of confusion.
No.
He's not going to set you up for failure. So I made that decision based on the relationship I have with God, you
Yeah.
know, and based on the stuff that I share with Him and the prayers that I sent out to
good.
Him. And I know that no prayer goes unanswered, and no prayer goes, void. So it's definitely scary.
Oh, definitely.
Taking quizzes and tests and learning a new, essentially a new field, because
Yeah.
I was never really in the tech field or in the IT field, or cybersecurity is like a very lucrative field right
But
now.
it's such a good field to get into, right, JR?
It's a great industry to get into. Like, you got to hit it now. So
Yeah.
if you guys are contemplating whether or not you want to get in that industry, do it now.
Right
'cause
now is the perfect time.
Right now is the perfect time, because within the next 3 years, from what I was told, it's just going to get so oversaturated.
That they won't need as many people anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, do it now. Do it now, guys. Do it now.
That's awesome.
The
I'm
time
so
is
happy
now.
for you. Yep, the time is now, and
Yeah.
you're doing the best thing that you can do, which
Yeah.
is trusting God. And
Absolutely.
I have no doubt that He is going to get you exactly where you're meant to be.
Amen to that. I'll take that any day.
So, one last thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite book in the Bible or verse or anything, and why?
Okay, so I like Psalms because I've
love
always,
Psalms. Psalm 91.
I come from a background of not professional musicians, but
Yeah.
just my parents love music. Both my mom and dad. We grew up on music, all kinds of music. My mom's brother played multiple instruments, and so that was always like knitted in our culture.
Yeah.
And when I started, reading the Bible more and the Bible stories and stuff like that,
Some of them are so hard to
the
read.
Psalms are just great because
Yeah.
they're essentially songs.
Yes. And
And-
some of the books in the Bible are like, it's like just names.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So I love Psalms. It's just been one of those things where I always gravitate to Psalms because it's songs of worship,
Yeah.
but it's also like David's story. Like outside from the Goliath story,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that you can peel back
I love Psalms.
with David because me as a man, like I can relate to some of the stuff that David, went through, and stuff like that. So yeah, but any book of Psalms, like
Yeah.
I've done exercises where in group settings where we covered the entire book of Psalms,
Yeah.
from the very first verse to the very last verse of the book of Psalms. So I love it.
It's so good. It's so relatable too, like you said. And my grandpa, I have the 91st Psalm tattooed.
Oh, yes.
My
Yes.
grandpa used to say the 91st Psalm every day before he left the house.
And fun fact, if you guys don't know this, book 118 of Psalms is literally the middle of the Bible.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that. Now I'm going to look and I'm going to like
Yeah.
open the Bible and be like, this is the very middle.
The very middle.
That's so cool.
Like to precision, its precision,
Yeah.
like it's the middle of the
Wow.
Bible, which I think is pretty cool.
I'm going to look at that
Yeah,
tonight. I'm just
yeah.
going to open my Bible and be like, this is the middle of the Bible.
118.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on today, Javi. This was
Again,
awesome.
Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, and we hope to have you back sometime, and
Sure.
we'll definitely be happy to join you on Kingdom Talks.
Yeah,
You guys
for
check
sure.
out his podcast.
Yeah.
But we hope that you guys enjoyed today, and we
Yes.
will catch you guys next time. Have a good one.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.